Hey everybody, my name is Swade, and this is my guide on diplomacy. First, there are three types of reputation. There is attitude, there is rite of passage reputation, and there is trade reputation. So let's start with attitude. Attitude is probably the one you're typically going to think of when you think of AI reputation, and this is the one that shows in the diplomacy screen. Gracious, polite, cautious, annoyed, and furious. You've probably seen that when you make contact with an enemy leader. So this is the reputation that makes you win a diplomatic victory, and there's a list of things here that will increase or decrease an enemy's attitude towards you. Raising your cities, their cities, is the one thing that's unexpected, but has like a huge penalty. So if you want to win a diplomatic victory, then don't raise the cities of any AI that you plan on keeping alive. Everything else here is pretty straightforward, so you can probably figure it out. Here are the two interesting types of reputation that you might not know of. These are kind of hidden in the game. The first is ROP reputation. So this is the one that decides whether or not someone will do a rite of passage agreement with you. You can ruin it by breaking a rite of passage agreement or by declaring war with troops in their territory. So yes, you actually did read that right. When you're declaring war, what you want to do is you want to conduct diplomacy with someone. Then you declare a war manually through that diplomacy menu, and then you put your units in their territory. Normally what most new players will do is they'll just march their units in, and then they will attack the city, and they'll use the declare war prompt that way. But if you do that, then they will never make ROP agreements with you again, and civs that are not at war with the civ who you did that to will also never make a rite of passage agreement with you. So be careful about that, definitely. The third type of reputation is trade reputation. So this is the reputation that decides whether the AI thinks that you will honor your 20-turn commitments. So for example, if the AI pays you lump sum gold in exchange for iron, they will do that at the start of the game, but if you do something to violate your trade reputation, what happens is the AI thinks that you won't honor your 20-turn commitments. They think that if they give you the gold upfront for your iron, then you're going to renege on that deal and then take your iron back. So the AI won't make that kind of deal with you if your trade reputation is ruined. So there are a bunch of different ways you can get your trade reputation ruined. 20-turn deals include gold per turn payments, giving resources, mutual protection pacts, rite of passage agreements, military alliances, and peace deals. So a few of these are like you probably would guess, but a few of them are like not intuitive or you might not know about. So the first is military alliances. So technically, military alliances are 20-turn commitments, and you violate that commitment if you make peace before those 20 turns have expired. So people don't really know this because the AI will break this all the frickin' time. Like they'll make a military alliance and then they'll make peace with the enemy civ after like 7 or 8 turns. And of course, if the AI reneges first, then you can also make peace. But if you're like in multiple military alliances against the same civ, you have to wait till either 20 turns expires, or every single civ who had a military alliance with you makes peace first. And peace agreements themselves are actually 20-turn commitments. So if you declare war for 20 turns after you made peace, then your trade reputation gets ruined. So watch out for that. Trade routes. So if you're supplying resources to an enemy civ, and the route gets broken, then that will ruin your trade reputation. This happens even if it wasn't your fault that the trade route gets broken. So for example, if you sell your harbor after agreeing to provide iron to someone, then you can't provide them iron anymore because you don't have the harbor, and that will ruin your trade reputation. That's obvious. But even if, let's say, the AI loses their city with their harbor, that will count as you not being able to deliver on your commitment, because you said you would provide iron, and then you can no longer meet that commitment, so the AI thinks you reneged on the deal. So some caveats apply to all this. I'll link a War Academy article below in the description if you're more curious about the exact details that go into it. But yeah, in the meantime, here's the TLDR. Do not declare war if you have units in enemy territory. Workers and settlers are fine, just not any military units. Do not break 20-turn deals. Do not put yourself in a position where you might have to break these commitments. So for example, if you sign a mutual protection pact, then if two civs start fighting each other and you have a mutual protection pact with one, then you're forced to either declare war on the Civ or break the Mutual Protection Pact. If the Civ who you're declaring war on, let's say you agreed to provide them iron, then your trade reputation gets broken either way, because either you can't deliver on the Mutual Protection Pact, or you can't deliver on supplying that Civ iron because you're declaring war on them. So yeah, for that reason, I wouldn't recommend Mutual Protection Pacts. These might seem overly restrictive, but following them actually makes diplomacy so much easier instead of making it harder. The further into the game you go, the more value you get from an intact trade reputation. And a trade reputation will net you thousands of gold, maybe tens of thousands of gold over the course of a game. So treasure it and value it very carefully. The gold per turn trick. So this one's pretty simple. Let's say you want to buy a tech from an AI Civ, but you don't have enough gold lump sum, and you want to use gold per turn. If you're running they won't accept gold per turn that is a greater amount than the surplus you're running. So if you're running a deficit, they won't accept any gold per turn from you. So what you have to do is you lower your science spending and maybe your happiness spending. Then you make the deal, and then you can just put your science spending back up again, and it doesn't matter. Trading techs. So trade techs when you're behind, trade techs when you're ahead, and trade techs when you're even with other civs. Just always be trading techs. I know you don't want the enemy civs to get stronger by having your techs, but you get a net advantage of this, because not only do you receive gold or techs from making these trade deals, but if you take the enemy civ's gold, then that means they have less gold to spend on their own research. So you'll be relatively further ahead in the long run. When you're behind, research techs that the AI usually avoids. So I have a list right here. These are techs that are valuable, but the AI neglects them for some reason. They're not programmed. The AI isn't programmed to pursue them immediately. So be careful, since a lot of these techs are pretty useless. Printing press is a good trading tech, but if you research printing press and then it turns out that everyone else already has printing press, you just wasted your time. Whereas with currency, that counts towards era advancement, so it's probably a good idea either way to research currency. Also note that a tech becomes less valuable the more people have it. So that's why having a tech monopoly is so important. If you're the only civ with printing press, you can probably get several other techs in exchange for that. This might also affect what order to make your trades in. So get the expensive stuff first, because the techs that you're offering are going to go down in value the more civs you trade them to. Military alliances. So generally, for a civ to agree to a military alliance, one of you must already be at war with the target. So if you you must commit to declaring war before you know for sure whether you'll have backup. So you want to declare war, and then you go try to make the military alliances against the civ. The good news is that they will make military alliances really, really cheaply. And they'll do so even if it would put themselves in a really, really bad position. Even if they're about to get slaughtered, they will make a military alliance against the civs who will slaughter them for 200 gold or for something like that. It's kind of ridiculous. So yeah, definitely use military alliances quite liberally. Use them to weaken strong civs, even if you don't have to do any of the fighting yourself. Just be careful not to cause too much damage, because generally the more civs are in the game, the better it is for you. So if you delete that civ from existence, well, the other civs will be relatively stronger, and they'll have less competition. So it might be a net bad for you. This is especially useful, the military alliance strategy, for strong civs on another continent, because it's hard to take on civs directly when they're on another continent, especially if they control the whole continent. But you can just use military alliances with all the civs from your continent against that civ. So that will weaken all the civs in the game for a few reasons. It will reduce trade, they'll waste their shields trying to kill each other, and it'll also force them into wartime governments. So you don't want the AI civs to be in democracy or republic, because then they get the commerce bonus. You want them to be in fascism or communism or monarchy or something like that. Now you might think the downside here is that they might roll over the other civs, but that doesn't happen between the continents, because AI civs are just absolutely so bad at naval invasions that there's not really any risk of them killing the civ on the other continent or getting a serious foothold there. So that means you can pretty safely just have military alliances with all the civs against the strong civ on the other continent, and you're weakening all the civs in the game, but there's no really downside to that. So I definitely recommend doing that. Resources. Sell away excess strategic resources. This includes ones you only have one copy of if you're not using them at the moment. So for example, if it is the middle of the industrial era, you probably don't need saltpeter. You can just sell your saltpeter away and get a bunch of money for it. You want to do this to make weak civs strong. Like, let's say they're fighting a defensive war. You can give them rubber so they can build infantry and protect themselves against the strong civ who you don't want to become stronger. All your diplomatic goals should be to weaken strong civs and strengthen weak civs. So, try to use imported luxury resources instead of happiness buildings. If you have like 7 or 8 luxuries, the marketplace is the only happiness building that you need. I believe the marketplace provides 12 happy faces if you have 8 luxuries. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And if you renew the deal on luxuries every 20 turns, it's easier to hold on to the imported luxuries because you get like first call. So normally if you just like, let's say there's like an unadvanced civ who has like a bunch of ivory, you can just get the ivory from them in exchange for a tech, and you can do that every 20 turns. And yeah, you just get the ivory for free basically. Yeah. So diplomatic victory. If you follow all these rules, most civs will like you by the modern era. They will forgive you for declaring war on them. They will forgive you for starting crazy military alliances against them. They won't forgive you easily for reneging on a 20-turn trade deal or for raising their cities. So if you're in doubt and if you're not sure if you're going to win the diplomatic victory, what you want to do is find out who your competitor will be, like who you're going to be running against. And then the turn before the vote, you make a military alliance with all the other civs in the game against that the competitor for the UN vote. So that will have 2 effects. First of all, it will make the other civs in the game hate your competitor. But it'll actually make them like you. Like, civs will love you if you're in a military alliance with them. So that gives you a benefit in terms of increasing your reputation and making you more likely to win the vote. So yeah, that's what there is to diplomacy. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and I'll see you guys next time.